on my ascendant. He's giving me a hard time. And this is a backward mirror. So I'm kind of.
I know. We're all trying to get used to it. Exactly. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the weekly astrological weather. This is your place to get in tune with the cosmic rhythms, to not only navigate them, but also thrive with them. So we're so happy that you're here with us. My name's Amanda Poole Walsh. I'm the founder of Astrology Hub, and we're here with your favorite weekly weather woman, Predictive Astrologer Anne Ortelee. And I just have to start by expressing our excitement because we're actually live on Facebook and on YouTube right now. So for all of you YouTube viewers who have had to wait until Tuesday to get the weekly weather, you're now going to be able to watch us live. So we have a new platform. If there's any glitches today, please forgive us. I know this is ambitious to do in Mercury's shadow, but we just had to do it. It's so exciting.
We're brave. We're
braving new territory. And it's a little disorienting, but it's good. So, and also we can see your comments, which I was never able to see your comments before. So we're going to be able to see comments as we go. I can't guarantee that we're going to be able to keep up with them and actually address them, but we'll be able to see them easier. So grateful to have you all here. Thank you. And so grateful to have you here. Let's start with the scale. Where are we at this week?
Last week when I said 20 to 200, I totally didn't realize that we were going to have that little polar vortex. And definitely the Texas people had a 200 week, right?
Yes.
Uranus, Saturn. Uranus is electricity. Saturn is structures. It kind of blew up, right? We also landed on Mars. I knew it was out there, but I completely missed it. And they landed on Mars, and it has a little helicopter. So it has a little helicopter. It can fly around, and that's Uranus rules helicopters. So that happened. So it was definitely a Uranus-Saturn week. And people had a look back. It was definitely a look back energy because Mercury was retrograde while the Uranus-Saturn squared. So we all had an opportunity to look back and say, gee, what happened? And of course, Rush Limbaugh died, and Uranus, changed the structure of, radio commentary. And interestingly, he came in around the same time Howard Stern did, who also changed radio commentary. And of course, I pulled Rush's chart, and he's got a Uranus Saturn. So it's the energy of change. And then we look back and we say, wow, because of all those things, this changed. Or because in the case of Texas, the structures maybe weren't maintained the way they should have been. We looked back to see what the story was, right? So the look back was last week, which also for many people, they went, oh, wow, I'm looking back at this and now I see it in a different way than I saw it before. And then how do I move forward now that I know that, right? So that energy of looking back and having the aha moment with the Mercury retrograde, of course, we go, oh, wow, of course, I have to change that. So now we have the whole year to get it up and running. So it was an interesting week. And when I said 200, it just kind of popped out of my mouth. And you were like, why? And I'm like, well, the Uranus Saturn and, a lot of water, Neptune opposite Vesta. And of course, Neptune was literally opposite Vesta retrograde. Vesta is the home and hearth planet. So the homes and hearths were embedded in water, frozen of water, and then, of course, all the pipes bursting. So, and then we just kind of watched all these different stories around the country and around the world where everybody went, oh, my God, and, or oh, my wow. Could be oh, my wow. Could have been a good wow, too. It doesn't have to be bad. But it was an awakening for many people. So,
yes.
And whatever woke up last week, you went, okay, let me try this in a different way. Right.
Well, and what woke up last week will again be the theme for the next two Saturn-Uranus squares, right? So basically the theme for the year or a big undercurrent of the year.
A big undercurrent for the year where you kind of look and you go, okay, so yeah, I'm going to do that. Or, okay, now that I've seen it, now I'm going to change that. And retrograde, of course, inspires us to go like this, but then now we're going to go this way and go forward. So in your case, you changed platforms. You looked and said, gee, it would be nice. Oh, there's this new thing. Okay, we're going to change it now. And then that allows us, because you said it's up to 8 platforms. I'm like,
yes, I know.
I'm like, 8? That's a lot of platforms, but it also, it gives you a wider reach. Uranus, Saturn, you're breaking free of the limitations that you had before.
Exactly. And it's so much more Saturn efficient, because if you're doing one broadcast, but then we can be on multiple platforms at the same time, it's much more sustainable. It's much more efficient. It has those like Saturn qualities to it.
Right.
And I have a question before we move on.
And it sets you free.
Right.
It sets you free because you're free now. You don't have to have somebody load it up, and depending on people, okay, man, I got to remember to do that. It's got a whole freedom. I can breathe. I'm set free, right? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, before we move to looking forward, if we're doing a little bit of a review of last week.
It's retrograde. We got to do a review.
Exactly. I have a question, because I brought up a few weeks ago that my brother was at the tip of the spear in California helping to get kids back into playing their youth sports. So all sports, all genders, they were really advocating for the kids and bringing the data to Governor Newsom and his staff about how, the kids, there was not much evidence showing that they were spreading COVID, but they were actually really suffering mentally. Suicide calls to the hotlines are up 4,000%, depression. I mean, really, and especially in the inner cities, they've been impacted even more, in Oakland. And so they were advocating for the kids. And last Friday, they received the first message back from the, governor, and the outdoor sports have been approved to play. So they had their first win. It wasn't a full win because the indoor sports still can't play, but it was their first win. And so I was thinking about it astrologically, because when I knew the decision was coming up, I was like, oh shoot, Anne said Saturn's going to win, and Saturn is probably the government. But then I was like, what's that?
It's an Aquarius, the children one.
Exactly, the children one. So I was thinking also about that thing you said with the ladle of the chart. I'm not saying this right.
The handle of the bucket. Yeah.
The handle of the bucket. Exactly. And that because there was so much over here heavy, that maybe the kids in Leo, maybe the Leo axis would win too. But I wanted you to explain the astrology behind how something like that would have worked that way.
Well, one of the things we look at is when there's a stellium, which is 3 or more planets in the same sign. And what happens is it's kind of a weighted energy. So it kind of pulls the energy there, but it's so much weight. It goes, oh my God, there's too much. And it kind of compresses and shoots across the chart, which is why, if you look at your astrology software, it'll list the stelliums, because when there's 3 or more gathered in the name of a sign, or even, if they're contiguous signs and there's a clump, it labels, oh, this is a stellium, which means they work as a team and they push forward. So think about what he did. He was the spearhead of the team that brought all this information about Aquarius, other people's children who want to go to Leo, play. They want to play. So it shot the energy across to the playhouse, where they were like, yes, it's okay to play. You can play now. And so there was an energy of freeing it up. But what happens when there's and it's in anything, whenever there's a big concentration like that, astrologers go, the other side's going to be activated because the energy in Aquarius is so strong, and it shoots across. So last year it was all in Capricorn, and it shot across to Cancer. So what did we do? We all were home. Unless you were a Cancer person, a caretaker, and you worked in a hospital taking care of people, nurturing them, or you worked in a profession where you cared for people, like a grocery store or a bus driver. You provided a service as the leader. You were like the mom of the bus. You were the you were the person that facilitated the person getting what they wanted. So last year we all got stuck home with the Cancer because of all the planets in Capricorn, right? And we all went back. A lot of people went back home to their mothers, and were back home to their childhood and reflected on early nurturing and how they were nurtured and what they were, how they weren't. The whole, are you taking care of me? You're not taking care of me. All the Cancer issues that were up last year when all the planets were in Capricorn. So we get excited whenever we see 3 or more in a sign, because we know there's like a little fuss that's going to happen on the other side. Just because it's kind of like you're walking down the street and you see a gang of Aquarians coming to you. So he gathered the community together, Aquarius, to go to the leader, Capricorn, Saturn, and he said, Uranus, can you set us free so that we can go do things, more importantly, so we can free the children to play.
Wow. Fascinating.
The symbolism. Remember, your keywords never fail you. So you and what's the Taurus in Taurus? We want to ground them rather than having them go to Scorpio and be depressed and try and kill themselves.
Yes.
Right.
Wow.
They're killing themselves. Like, this is not good. And, as adults, we get it. We get that there's a virus. But when you were a little kid and you broke up with somebody, or your friend didn't like you, or you did not realize that this was just a little time, because your experience in life is so little, right? So you don't realize that this will someday end. And when the adults don't even know when it's ending, you're like, oh my God, this is going to be forever. I can't take it a minute longer. I mean, we're having a hard time as grown-ups. I can't imagine what they're going through.
Yeah. Well, the numbers are fair.
Oh, what'd they do? Did I get dropped? Yeah. Okay. I lost you, Amanda. I think. I don't hear you. I am in the show. Everyone can see and hear me. Maybe Amanda left. It says we're recording, so I don't know. Amanda, I don't hear you. Okay, there you go.
I'm so sorry. Okay.
I was like, did I do it? Did you do it?
I have no idea what I hit. I hit something that just made me disappear. So again, thank you for your patience as we're trying this new platform.
We should note the time, because I'm going to guess Uranus hit an angle either in New York or in Hawaii. So, living astrology, 12:16 a.m. Pull the chart. Yeah, because because I'm like, it says on the top, I'm live, and then it's like, okay, I'm by myself in this room. We were demonstrating the Uranus Saturn, right? You just demoed it for all to see, where suddenly we vaporized, and I'm like, okay, I got left alone in the room. And I'm channeling my inner 5-year-old, and then I'm like, well, it says I'm still talking. Okay, so I guess I have to talk.
Okay, so for those of you who are joining us late, we're using a new platform today that's enabling us to stream live on YouTube at the same time that we're streaming live on Facebook. And we are still in Mercury retrograde shadow. So it's definitely ambitious for us to be trying this new and live in front of all of you. So please bear with us. And I have no idea what I just did. So hopefully I'll figure that out at some point.
As we did it, we hit the world point. So everybody's going to comment on in New York. I don't know what you did in Maui, but in New York, the ascendant hit 0 Cancer, and boom. And then the midheaven is 6 Pisces, my moon. So I was left alone. Alone in the room.
Oh my gosh.
Look at what's going on your side, because you did some little magic over there with your time zone change. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, so what I was asking you, because I didn't realize I was gone, is now that we've looked back, can we look forward to this week? And if we had a 20 to 200 on the intensity scale of 1 to 10 last week, what would you say would be on the intensity scale this week?
It's reasonably high because there's so much adjusting energy this week, because the moons are crabby all week and they're in hard aspect to the planets. So it's like, it's like a little growl. So it's moon in Cancer. Closing aspect is a hard aspect to Pluto. That's today. Then, that's hard. And then we go to the Leo moon, which is got a closing aspect of an opposition to Jupiter. So it's a little over the top. It's not a bad opposition, but it's a little over the top. And then the Virgo moon has a nice closing aspect of a trine to Pluto. That's Thursday evening, late, and Friday and Saturday. So that one's nice, but it also has an energy of how we move forward. So it's a little crabby, cranky, right? And so there's adjusting. So the Cancer moons are forming an inconjunct to the Aquarius planets, saying adjust, and then the Virgo moon is forming an adjusting aspect to the Aquarian planets. So it's kind of hard. And I made a mistake when I said the moon is opposite Jupiter. It's actually, the Leo moon is actually square Mars. I realized it was in the wrong month. So Mercury retrograde. So the closing aspects are hard all week. The Virgo moon has okay closing aspects with the trine to Mars, but it also is the end of the week. So it's a lot of adjusting, so they can't, so think about those people in Texas. They're totally adjusting stuff. And obviously you're going to watch for adjusting energy. Cancer in conjunct Aquarius, right? Cancer moon in conjunct Aquarius. And then when it's the Virgo moon in conjunct Aquarius. So it's a Virgo feel, like you have to change this. And then it's a Scorpio feel, I psychologically get it. And then the Leo is just frustrated, right? So it's annoying. So, we watch the people, I'm really paying attention to Texas. We watch the people watching their water melt, after it was frozen on their ceiling fans. And then it started melting, and think of all the stuff that gets wet or ruined. You always see those big storms come in, in the South when the hurricanes hit. And then it's just, they have to take it out so it doesn't get moldy. So it's an adjusting energy, like, it's one of those weeks. So depending on how you feel about that, if you're a Virgo or a Cancer, you kind of like it because you get to clean it and scrub it and clear it out. If those aren't your jams, you're going to be like, I have to clean this out and scrub this and do this. I have to, that kind of energy, right? So, but generally frustrating. The moons are frustrated this week. And they're irritated. So it's irritated, frustrated. Now you may watch other people do that. And you may be, okay, that's what's happening for you. I'm not irritated and frustrated. I just know I have to adjust. So when I got in here, I said, I'm dealing with Bank Americard. I'm da, 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 da. And you said, I'm adjusting my banking too. It's that kind of, and let me adjust this so that I figure out how I want to go forward. So it's not a hard week, but also what we also do have is Ceres. She takes 4 years to go around the cycle. On February 21st, she enters Aries, which means she crosses the equator and she starts a new 4-year cycle around how you nurture and care for yourself, how you take action for yourself. And I like her, she got promoted to a dwarf planet when Pluto got demoted. So I really give her propers. And so if you're thinking of, I look back, if one of your things with the Saturn-Uranus was you look back at some old photos and you went, look at what I looked like. Now look at what I look like. I need to go on a diet. This is a great week for that because you're going to be like not quite comfortable in your skin. You're going to feel a little bit like, so depending on how irritated you are with that, that's the kind of week it's going to be. And Mars and Taurus comes to trine Pluto. So I'm going to make you blush again, Amanda. We're getting into the plowing stories again, right? Everybody loves it when I talk sex with Amanda. My little Scorpio goes. And I had a little Scorpio friend. She's 5. And she's much older now. She just had a baby last year. But when she was 5, you take them to a museum and you don't realize how much naked people there are and how much death there is in a museum, right? But you go in a museum with a 5-year-old, they're paying attention. And so my friend, the mother of the child, the little Scorpio, was dating a guy, a nice guy named Howie. And it wasn't like magical, but the little Scorpio kid was kind of pushing, right? So I have all sorts of things in my house, which she knows about. And she came in and I have a fairy book, and it's this artist who drew all these fairies. Most of the fairies are naked. And so she's a little Scorpio. Howie was a Taurus, and they were sitting on the couch and she's showing him my book and going, see the naked? See the naked? And Howie's there. He doesn't know me from Adam, right? Her mother is there going like, oh my God. And she's doing, see the naked?
Oh, that's so cute.
So when people talk about me making you blush when I get going about the Taurus and the plowing, I'm reminded of Lindsay going, see the naked, Amanda? So this week Mars trines Pluto. So we're going to see the naked, or we're going to see the assertion of this is what I want to do. But yeah, so it's just, my Saturn Venus is in 5 Scorpio, so I like that.
Okay, so let me ask you to clarify that. I'll just blush a little bit more. What do you mean? So you say Mars in Taurus trines Pluto
in Capricorn this week.
In Capricorn. So explain a little bit more what that is.
So what you're going to want to do is plow the field and take action towards getting what you want, right? But everybody, since we've been bringing up Mars and Taurus, and you keep turning red, I know that's one of the things that I hear. I mean, people actually email me privately about it. I love when you make Amanda blush, and I'm like, I'm going to make her blush this week really bad. And I'm just thinking of poor Howie on my couch, kind of going, like, I have to be nice to this kid because she's the daughter of my friend, So yeah.
Okay, all right. So that's happening. Okay, so would you?
So this happens once a year. Mars trine Pluto. Once every 2 years, Mars comes into a trine to Pluto. So it wants us to express ourselves, to take action. And remember, we talked back when you were having your garden plowed in the backyard with the guys. The Mars trine Pluto is like, okay, so now it's time to plant what you want. It's time to take action towards what you're plowing, and it is it's kind of got a potency because it's Mars meets up with Pluto, and then now he's in what we call an opening trine. So he's asserting himself about what he wants to do now. So it's a very assertion week. So you're going to watch people asserting themselves and saying, this is what I want, and taking action towards it. And you're going to feel it build. Now, trines are easy. They're fun. They're nice, but they also require us to take action. And remember, Mars Pluto does have a war energy or a collaboration energy. So here, in the States, we've got Biden reinitiating his involvement with Europe, with the climate change, with the Iran nuclear deal. Mars Pluto, we're coming in and we're saying, okay, I want to do that. Or, the people in Texas, we're coming in and we got to clean up our stuff. Or we're coming in and we're going to deliver to you what we promised you. So it's a very powerful energy, and people do well to pay attention to it, because last March, when Mars met up with Pluto, he initiated a 2-year cycle, and now we're in the opening trine. Remember, we had 6 months of Mars in Aries last year, so he didn't get to the open. Normally, he gets there in 2 years around. He gets there in like 8 months, but we had to really wait for him because of the retrograde. So now he's back to March, and he's saying, okay, we're going to plow forward and take action on what we started last March. And when Mars came through the COVID clump or the COVID cluster or the COVID consulting group or whatever you want to call them, we initiated a story, and now he's saying, okay, so let's see how that story's going for you. And of course, Taurus is money. So I think that means we pass the money bills that are in Congress too.
Okay.
Or take action to say, okay, in your case, the kids are getting their sports back. So the minute he got that, yes, he's out there, and he should go back in June because he gets indoor in June.
Yeah. All right.
Maybe as soon as March, because if it goes well and it shows real improvement, March 21st, there's a Sun-Venus conjunction. So if he figures out how to work the indoor sports, that would be a time to reapply. Because at this point, as Mercury pulls away, that conjunction Sun-Venus says, okay, there are ways we can do this.
Nice. So. Okay. Very good. All right. Can you talk a little bit more about Ceres? What's the energy of Ceres? Because we don't talk about Ceres as much.
Yeah. She's the Mother Earth energy, right? So she had her daughter who got abducted to the underworld. And she looked all over, and nobody told her where she was. And then she went roaming around. She did a bunch of different things. There's one story that's not so good. She was being a nursemaid, and the babysitting the baby, and the mother comes in, and she's holding the kid over the fire of eternal youth by the heel. And the mother screamed, "Oh my God, what are you doing with my kid?" And she goes, "You stupid woman, you interrupted. I was going to make him immortal." And of course, now he's Achilles with an Achilles heel, right? But she wandered, and then she found out what had happened to her kid. Aphrodite was mad at her and wanted to split them up. There's because she wasn't letting the daughter leave. Who knows? Everybody's got a story. But what she decides to do is, I am mad, and I'm going to stop growing things. I'm in charge of cereal, grain, and food. You guys are all screwed. I'm done. So everybody starts to starve. They all appeal to the higher guy. He goes to the lower guy. You got to let the kid go. You're going to be overrun with a bunch of dead people who are hungry. And so he feeds her 3 pomegranate seeds, and she emerges, and then she comes above Earth for 6 months. And then the other 6 months she goes below Earth. And when she's above Earth, we have spring and summer. And when she's below, we have fall and winter because her mother mourns her being gone. So a lot of times if people have a strong Ceres mythology, they have that 6 months on, 6 months off thing. They also have an energy around creating. It's important to look at what sign she's in, because she talks about, do you think of it as a winter fasting energy, or do you think of it as an abundance energy? As she enters spring today or this week, she says, hey, spring's coming, time to decorate the world. My kid's coming home. A lot of times she's implicated in eating disorders. So if you have Ceres and Aquarius, you throw up. If you have Ceres, you binge and purge. Uranus, you release. A lot of time, especially, when I'll look at it, if it's afflicted, I was like, sometimes this is an eating disorder. And they go, I have an eating disorder. Or you can see if it's in Capricorn, when they're really stressed, they stop eating, right? When it's in a water sign, when they're really stressed, they do eat, because they want to, it's kind of interesting looking at her as a flow, but she also is tied to fertility, making babies. She's a great one to look at if you're going to make babies. Like if she's active, because she's often popping when you're having a kid. So my friend just became a grandmother this week. Little baby came out, and she had a Ceres, so she's now the next level of mother, right? And she's like, and so on Tuesday when she gets her hands on him, because the daughter's coming home from the hospital today, she's like, and she's got a big Ceres transit, so she meets her grandchild. So it is not just single generation; it's multi-generation. Mother's maternal, how you nurture. A lot of times, people with a strong Ceres angular are nurturers by nature. That's what they do. So it's an interesting planet. And she was an asteroid. She's bigger than Pluto. So when they had the whole brouhaha that Pluto was, Eris was bigger than Pluto and these dwarf planets, and they were like, well, technically we should promote her to a dwarf planet because she's bigger than Pluto. So they demoted him and they promoted her. And it's interesting because those two have a fight. They're siblings, but they fight with each other. So they both now are on equal stead. And she kind of corresponds to us really getting very aware of climate change, much more, I've heard it for a while because I travel in those worlds, but, now even people go, well, it's not climate change. It's like, all right, whatever, but everybody even says it. Well, it isn't climate change. It's cold. It's not global warming. And you're kind of like, all right, whatever. Let's just kind of, but we're all aware of it. We're all aware of food. We're all aware of what kind of food we eat. Part of last year when I said we're going to have food shortages, was the Uranus, series in Pisces in the winter signs. So we did have, food lines and people not eating, food, what do they call it? Food insecurity. I'm like, just say they're hungry, feed them, people, but now she's in Aries. So now we're going to have more, okay, we're going to take action. We're going to start growing things. And if you think about spring, if you're in a community garden thing like I am, what do you get? You get lots of lettuces, So I went and ordered some food to be delivered, and I ordered a bunch of spinach and things like that to make smoothies with. And then I noticed when I did the weekly weather, I'm like, oh, Ceres is in Aries. No wonder I'm making smoothies, like you want that fresh renewal energy. Mm-hmm. So she's a very powerful. And I, mothering energy, mothering story, making babies. A lot of times when I had Pluto on my Ceres, my mother died and went to the underworld, transiting Pluto. So she's very powerful. She's a very powerful asteroid. Now she's a dwarf. So.
And would you say that she's just as powerful as Pluto? I mean, if she's bigger, theoretically, would she have just as much impact as Ceres? And same with Eris?
Who think about your parents. Would you discount your mother?
No.
But now we're promoting her and we're saying, hey, Mom, you're just as important as all these other planets.
Wow. Interesting. Oh my God. I love the correlations of how that happens in the sky and here at the same time. Yeah. So if someone's wondering if they have a quote unquote strong Ceres, how would they find that out?
It looks like a question mark it looks like a circle. It looks like a scythe, a little thing with a question mark on the bottom. Looks like that, it's got a curve and then a question mark. And so you look at where your Ceres is by sign and placement, house, remember the degree, what the degree is in the minutes, that age. Did you become a mother at, you got one at 25. Did you become a mother at 25? You got one at, at 13. What was going on then around food or food issues or going on with your parents, because you're watching them when you're younger. One of the reasons we pay more attention to planets when they're under 10 is because you're a little kid. Those planets are watching what the parents are doing, whereas when they're older, they kind of have their own story, right? So
okay,
yeah. So you look at her by sign and placement, look and see who has aspects to her. What planets talk to her, friendly or nice. Remember, squares and oppositions are a little more contentious, and trines and sextiles are easy. Conjunctions can go either way. If she's hanging out with a nice planet, she's happy. If she's hanging out with a mean planet, not so much. A lot of times, Uranus to Ceres, you have a hysterectomy. She's very literal. You lose the baby carriage. You keep the playpen, but lose the baby carriage.
Yeah. Okay. So we went through
and
Ceres.
Was discovered was 1800s, which is when the suffrages movement really started to take off.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
1806, all the asteroids were discovered. And they said women can have other roles besides being Venus and the moon. They can do other things. And so we have all these different feminine asteroids that got discovered then that said women can have more roles than they traditionally had. And that was the origin of the suffrages, like looking at women in a different way.
Wow. So for those of you who are newer to astrology, it's really fascinating to look at the time when we actually discover planets or asteroids, and then how that correlates with things that are happening here on this planet. And it's usually quite astounding, as we're discovering more and more out there, that it changes here too. So, okay, Anne, so we went through the moons. Is there anything else that you want to talk about for the upcoming week?
Yeah, the week has Mercury aspecting the nodes of fate. Remember, he's going on his third pass through, so he has an opportunity to make choices about things in a different way. Venus enters Pisces this week, so she's now in Pisces. So she goes into Pisces on February 25th. So she's softer. Pisces is the sign of her exaltation. So she's very happy in Pisces. She's kind of loving and kind, and now, but still remember, she's reporting to Jupiter, reporting to Saturn. So even though the Sun and Venus are in Pisces, they're still reporting into Saturn. The whole sky's still talking to them. Except this week, when the moon goes through Cancer today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, the moon reports to itself. So the moon's going to be very fierce because she's got her own thing. And remember, she's in conjunct all this Aquarius stuff. So people are going to be feeling emotionally like they need to separate, or they're not being taken care of, or they don't want to do it anymore. They're kind of like, I take care of everybody and I don't want it. Remember when you want to go on strike? Or, I have a friend who, her mother goes, I want my mother, and her mother's long gone, but she's like, I'm not feeling nurtured. So the moon this week is going to be by herself, very much alone, opposite all these planets, feeling a little emotionally bereft or overwhelmed. And of course, the moon rules the home. So all the people that had damage from the water and the floods will be, or, with the storm. So it's an interesting week because it's got a whole emotional insecurity component to it, but it also says, it'll be better. It'll be better. You'll be okay. And then the Mars trine Pluto is big. And then Jupiter aspects the nodes, which he does once every 12 years. He's talking to them. He's in a trine to the North Node, saying, take a gander on your dream. And that's going to be on February 26th. And then there's a lot of Athena this week. So Athena is, I need a better strategy. I need to come up with a different way to do this. And so in your case, you're changing your podcast program. I need a better way to do this. Like, let's apply strategic thinking. So if you find yourself going, I think we need to come up with a better way to do this, that's Athena talking, very supported, new strategic ways of handling things. And then Vesta squares the home and hearth aspect on the 23rd. So she's kind of saying, okay, what are the changes you need to make to your home and hearth? And remember, Vesta can rule your car. If you live in your car, it can rule your office. It can live in your house. It can be your own body. because it's the temple, Vesta as the temple keeper. In the old days, she's the one that looks like a little flame, and she kept the temple fires going. And back before we had electric heat or heat, like we just saw in Texas, if the fire went out, you had to go to your neighbors to get it and then come back with it. And we did see her coming opposite Neptune, so the fire was doused by snow. And now Neptune, Vesta squares the node, so we're going to turn the fire back on. We're going to have heat. We're going to have fire. We're going to have that. But it's still opposite Neptune. Do the pipes come back or not? So it's a big mess, but it's all good. So you want to watch where you're turning on the fire in your own life, where you have a choice about how to life.
Okay, so
there's a lot. That's why I'm saying it's one of those weeks where, today you're 3, you're like, and then tomorrow you're 20, and then you're like, and then you're, it's very skitsy week, little here, little there, and it's very Uranian. There's, it's Mercury, Uranus, or it's all the Aquarian planets are kind of in there going, well, we're a little clump, kind of talking to Uranus, and he's like, okay, I'm going to blow you up too. Okay, now I'm going to blow you up. All right, I'm done. I'm going to blow you up. I mean, he's like over there blowing up stuff, right? So in a good way, for the most part.
So we still have that Saturn-Uranus energy. It's not.
Well, we have it for all year. We have it till December. So this was our first pass. So now they go forward, and then they meet up at 13 in June. And then they meet up at 11 in December. So they're waking up everything in your chart between 7 and 13. They're going to wake up now. 7 and 14, go to 14. So any planets you have in those degrees over the next few months through June 14th, they're going to wake them up. Mm-hmm. And then they're going to go back over them. And then they're going to get to 11 when we get to December 24th. So this is that whole section of the sky in your chart between 7 and 14 is up for huge changes. Whatever planets you have there are getting these two guys. And remember, Saturn and Uranus, Saturn was the son of Uranus, and he cut Uranus' balls off and threw them in the ocean. They were having a fight. So they're having a fight in the sky, but they're psychologically integrating as opposed to having the fight. So Uranus is saying, yeah, okay, you cut my balls off. But you know what that means for you, Saturn? And so it's the consequences of actions taken that we've been taking since 88. So the babies that were born in 88, 8, or 9 are having a rocking year. And also think back what you did in 99 through spring of 2000, because that story then is kind of reflected now in this new journey that they're taking now. They're saying, well, you finished that story up, so now we're going to do it. The other thing that happens, Amanda, is we start something, we come in and we start it, and then when we end, it repeats. Like, you date somebody for 11 months, or you see somebody as a friend for 11 months, then you friend them for 11 months on the way out, right? But in the meantime, you have the relationship. So Uranus and Saturn were square, and we had the conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter. So now we had the conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter, and now we're having Uranus square 3 times. So it's kind of an echo of that time. Like, well, you had these changes that you made in 99 to initiate a 2000 cycle. And now we have a new cycle that got initiated in December. And now we're going to make adjustments in our life to get that up and running between now and December. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of an echo of that story. And, it's the Uranus Saturn conjunct, the Uranus Saturn cycle is a 45-year cycle. So it is basically half a human life now, but in the old days, that was a human lifespan, so it's big. It's big, not as big as last year, because last year was is like grind it up. But now it's like, okay, now that it's been ground up, now what are we going to do with it? Mm-hmm. What's our next journey with this thing?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So would you say that now is a good time? You said there's going to be a lot of adjusting energy, mm-hmm. that we're going to have to be cleaning things up, scrubbing things up, that it can be frustrating and irritating. But would you say that it'd be a good week to proactively make changes? So if there's, instead of waiting for adjustments needing to happen to us, that we can just initiate changes and proactively do that. And this is a good energy that is supportive of that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because like your brother, he got permission. So now what he wants to prove is the kids playing together don't get sick.
Right.
So he's going to be on these kids, all these teams to keep track of what happened, how'd it go, how do we handle it? And we did have the model of the sports players. They had different approaches, whether they were encapsulated or whether they traveled and they got wiped out. We saw them do it. So now the coaches can do that on a local level. Remember, we see it on a global level, and they were like, well, we want to make money with the basketball. We don't want to pay these guys a lot of money and not have them play. How do we do that? Now we get to figure out, okay, that worked for them, this worked for them, and we get to implement it on a more local level. So
the thing that was interesting in terms of keywords with that whole scenario is their whole rally call. And I know I said this a few weeks ago, but the whole rally call was around love. It was community and love of the children. It was not a political movement. It was meant to bring people together and not be divisive, bring them together in the thing that they all love, which is the children. So it was amazing to see how effective that was and how much that movement, I mean, they literally like moved mountains, just these parents and coaches coming together going, hey, look, this isn't right. We need to talk to you. And they literally moved the mountain of the California government, which has not been the easiest to move. So it was really fascinating to watch and a good model for all of us as we're taking action. Like you said, lots of taking action, taking charge, forward movement. As we're doing that in our lives, having what is that unifying force that's bringing us together as a community? And if that unifying force is more powerful than its opposite, then we have a good chance of succeeding. But if we're trying to actually come together around the same frequency or energy that's feeling oppressive, then it probably won't work. Yeah, exactly. And I watched that there was a big Facebook group. There's over 60,000 parents in this group, and people are frustrated and they're, watching their kids suffer, and they're just like, whoa, very overwhelmed with sadness and frustration and the feeling of hopelessness. But it was amazing to see when the spark of inspiration would come in. It's like, look, let's remember what we're fighting for, and let's come together around that force. It was really, really powerful. So I think it's a great thing for us to keep in mind as we all move forward with different initiatives in our lives, different people taking action around certain things that they're trying to change, because it's going to be a lot of change. But do we change and stay the same essentially? Does the underlying energy stay the same, or are we actually evolving and bringing things in a new direction that is the direction we all want to go in? Right. So, yeah.
And remember back when you were doing the school thing with the island people, right? And you were talking about, we're trying to figure out how to do pods for the kids so we can all play together. And that was a very unifying time. And then there was a little, but then it was like, okay, focus on the kids. When you focus on something, there's a really interesting, drawing a blank on his name, but his last name is Sinek. And he has a thing on a TED Talk called The Power of Why.
Simon Sinek.
Yes, that's him. Yes. The Power of Why.
Yes.
And when you're clear on the why, it works. Because you know why you want to do it. When you're not clear on the why, it doesn't work. So if you guys have, 15 minutes, go watch it. He talks about the power, when it's external and all the data and this and this and this and this is great and the power of why you're doing it is important. So in your case, you made the decision to change platforms. Nothing wrong with the other platform. What was the emotional decision? Well, I can do it easier. I can give the reason I'm doing it. The why for me is I get it out to people faster. It goes seamlessly, hopefully. It goes out and I'm like, oh, good. That's the power of why is why I picked that rather than what I had. And so it's a really interesting video, because I think about, like, when I want to make a change, I get cranky if I get told I have to, but if I go, well, why am I doing it? When it comes from the why, it's a much clearer vision. So we're working for the children. The why in this case is the why of the children. We have a clear vision, and now we can make the emotional change. So it's really important to ask that why question. And it's a great I was like, oh, it's so interesting because it really reframes, like, what do you do? Because, a lot of times when the emotion is behind it, you talk about it, I'm going to do it, I'm going to talk about it, but when the why is there, it's clear why you want to do it. So then you're motivated to do it. That's the emotional hook in. And then the air and the ideas all kind of go, oh yeah, let's create it, because we have to have the emotion to get it. And the emotion comes from the why.
Exactly. And the emotion makes it, there's so much more energy around whatever you're trying to change versus that kind of stagnant, just pushing against something. There's way more energy. It's way more dynamic, and you have staying power.
Yes.
So it's when you get hit, if they had gotten hit with a no on Friday, there was no stopping this movement. Like, there was no stopping these parents. There's absolutely no way this would have just like fizzled and died. Because there was so much energy around, look, this is what we know is right for our children. And so we'll go to the very end of this battle and make sure that they get the freedom, they get the play, they get all the things that are so healthy for them that they haven't been able to do since March. And California was the last, well, besides Hawaii, there's only a few states left where the kids were doing zero outdoor organized activities, organized sports. And what was happening is that only the club sports, the private sports that you have to pay for, those were the only ones that were happening. And so this like economic disparity was happening. All kinds of things were happening that just weren't healthy or supportive. So it was, again, for me, it was like this model of like, wow, this is how you affect change. And this is how you affect change with an energy that feels like a win. It feels like a win for everybody. No one was beat down in the process. It was like, how do we all uplift this thing that we cherish?
How do we move towards this thing that's really important to all of us?
Yeah. So we have a good time to be making changes. We have a lot of adjustment. We have some potentially frustrating and irritating energy. We have a great time to take action, to express yourself, to plant what you want in the ground. So we did the plowing before. Now it's time to plant the seeds. There we go.
We're planting.
There's lots of potency. This is a time where you also may feel emotionally unsupported or alone or overwhelmed, but that there's an end to that. So if you do have moments where you're feeling like that, just know it's temporary, it's transitory. You're not going to feel like that forever.
No, and it is moon in Cancer, so it's not always even going to have words. The Cancer moon just has feelings. So
you just feel it.
Like, so evoke the feeling. Like if you go, oh, I'm feeling sad, let me go watch this. So I was talking to one of my students this morning, and she was talking about some stuff with her kids. And there's a great movie, The March of the Penguins, which is, the penguins making the little baby penguins. And then at the end, the penguins go off, and there's this one little sad penguin that's trying to keep up with them, and they're just walking away. And the penguin's like, I'm so sad. And, and then he kind of like, oh. And then he turns around, and there's other penguins, little baby penguin. And he goes, okay, maybe I'll go play with them, because they're leaving. And then he's like, well, there's other penguins, So I said to her, now you need to go watch that movie again. She goes, I know, I'll go watch it. It makes me cry. I'm like, I know, but which one are you? Are you the parent penguins leaving, or are you the baby penguins? No, yeah, it's good. So it is a little emotional, so we want to just really honor when people are feeling, that's okay. That's exactly, that's part of this energy. And it is like, all right, let me lean in and adjust and do my Saturn. Let me find something to do, because then I'm going to feel better. But remember, Cancer springs between big mama, big daddy, or little boy, little girl. So you may feel you're like, or you may feel like, okay, I'm in charge. They're both going to be very active this week.
Okay, awesome. We have a time to create a better strategy with the Athena energy. So if there's things in your life that you want to rework and have a better strategic vision or a strategic way of taking action, this is a really good time to put those things in place. It's a mutable week, so you may have ups and downs and have all of it. We have any planets between 7 and 14 in your chart, that these are the ones that are being activated all year, right? Not just right now, but so you might want to just start to get intimate with those planets and placements and start to ask the question, like, what does this placement mean? And what does it mean for it to get activated? And how is that going to play out this year? There's going to be huge changes in those areas of your life, and also consequences of actions taken in the past. And then there's an echo to 1999 and 2000. So there was a closing storyline. I mean, we just had a closing storyline around that. Yeah. And we're opening up a new storyline with similar kind of ideas or themes.
Back in 99, the planets were in the same signs, but they were reversed. So Saturn was in Taurus and Uranus was in Aquarius, right? So of course the late 90s was Sex and the City and Friends. And so those guys are, that's why that kind of time is back again. They did the commercial at the Super Bowl with Ashton Kutcher and Mila. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call it the old wife, but, and they were playing a Shaggy song from 2000. Wasn't me. And I'm like, I don't remember that song. So I went and looked. I'm like, oh, this is really an interesting video. The Cheeto took it. It wasn't me eating the Cheetos, but they're back to 2000, repurposing. That's kind of the story. It kind of shows up again. Yeah.
Okay, nice. And then it's a great week and year to be thinking about what is your why? What is that driving force in you, that value that you cherish, that you'll go to the ends of the earth for, and to rally around that. So you could watch the Simon Sinek TED Talk. It's really, really good. And
SINEK.
Yes. And speaking of children, I don't know if you've noticed our Seeds of Light show, our newest show on the Astrology Hub Podcast network of shows. One of the things that we've done is we're really taking very pointed questions that we're getting from you, and we're having astrologers answer them in like 15 minutes. So very like little bite-sized snippets for parents and grandparents and aunties and uncles and those of you who have children in your life that are demonstrating how we can use astrology with our children in very clear ways. So some of the questions that have been covered so far is like, my teen is suffering with depression. How can astrology help me? Where can I look in the chart to get assistance for that? My child is having nightmares or is afraid at night. How can astrology help? And so we're having different astrologers come on and address very specific issues that are up again with our children, which I've noticed throughout this that they're not talked about a whole lot. And it feels really important for us to bring the challenges that are unique to them that have come up in this time. And really, they've been having these challenges for a while. It's just like this situation has exacerbated things to a whole new level. Mm-hmm. And astrology has so much to offer the children. And there's so many times when I hear about children taking their lives or, suffering with anxiety and depression. And I think, God, if they only knew how important their life was, if they only knew that they were here for a reason and a purpose, it's written in the stars, literally, it really could shift things for them. So we're making a big effort to get the word out about astrology and how it can help our children. And right now the focus is on helping you as parents, but we will have content that will be specific for the children at some point, hopefully in the very near future as well, so that teens can tune in and start to learn, and children, even younger ages, can start to tune in and learn as well. And then you can share it together, because that's actually one of the most amazing things. Last night, my daughter asked, she was having some anxiety about going to sleep. There's some fear at night. And she goes, Mama, can we sit outside under the stars before we go to bed? And I was like, yes, that's awesome. Just for her to be comforted by the sky, which humans have been comforted by the sky for a long time. So it's those little things, though, that we can share with our children that are really special. So if you're interested, if you have people in your life that are interested, make sure you check out the Seeds of Light, which is our newest show on this platform, in addition to Storytelling, which is another great show for you to share with your children and start to tell the myths and the stories of the sky itself, and start to look at the constellations and understand all this amazing, the amazing magic that is in the sky that we have really lost touch with. Mm-hmm. So check those out. Also, if you're not receiving your weekly horoscope from Christopher Renstrom, that is available, astrologyhub.com/horoscope. That's free. It's personalized. It'll really be a great complement to the weekly weather we're doing here with Anne. And if you like the new format, those of you on YouTube, we really did it for you so that you could get the forecast on Mondays instead of Tuesdays. It took us that long to like download the video, upload the video. So if you're happy that you're receiving this on Mondays, let us know. I think that's it. Anne, is there anything you want to add as we close out?
No, I think we're going. Oh, the other thing is we have a full moon this week.
Yeah.
Full moon. Like the full moon's at 7 degrees of Pisces Virgo. And of course it's full. So we go back to the 24th of August, 19, back August of 19, around the 24th. And then we go to June 24th of last year of 2020. And now we have the full moon. So there's a story unfolding. So in my case, that was the my dad dying and do I buy the condo? And then in June, they sold the condo. And now I'm thinking of buying a condo. And then if I do buy it in December, which is the next one, the Sagittarius closing square, I'll spend the winter down there next year. So
wow. Do you have
so watch where you're going to get
earrings, Anne?
I don't have my earrings on today. It was this was not, I was having trouble with the bank today. I was like, I'm just doing my
But that doesn't mean we're not moving. That just means
well, we're gonna well, I'm actually, my rent is very low, so I think I'm gonna be a snowbird.
Oh, you're gonna do both.
Oh yeah. Well, I got so much crap in this apartment, Amanda, because I've lived here 42 years. I was talking to a friend of mine last night who gives me a really hard time about putting a dumpster outside of my window and throwing shit out the window because she lived here when there was nothing in the apartment. We bought a TV. I bought a TV, and we were both like, "Should we go to bed? Like, shouldn't a parent come and tell us to go to bed? Like, we feel grown up now, right?" Because that was 1980. And she's a thrower outer, so she keeps threatening she's going to put a dumpster outside my window and just throw stuff out. But actually, she was very nice yesterday. She goes, "Well, you have lived in that apartment for almost 42 years, so it's kind of like you've never moved." I said, "Right." So she says, "So of course you have a lot of stuff." I'm like, "Whoa," because she's always like, "Just let me have it for a weekend."
Yes.
Like, so she's like, "Well, I think you should leave the Florida place pristine." And then leave the New York place. Because I have 9 bookcases in a 1-bedroom apartment full of books. I have, so it's, so.
I love that idea though. So you have your pristine space and then it's almost like this becomes a storage space in New York. You can keep all your.
It's a cheap, it's really a pretty cheap storage space for all the stuff. But It's also, this is very much a Virgo Earth house. And that's very much an Aquarian house because it's a sky house, right? Yeah. And it's very, it's very minimalist. And, Virgo has their stuff. So, but I was like, oh, okay, so I may actually be buying that place. We'll see if my offer is accepted. So.
Oh, you already put the offer in?
No, I was doing the finances. That's why I was having trouble with the bank.
Oh, right. Okay.
I had to pull out my money and show them I have money, So.
All right. Well, we're all rooting for you. And that's
everybody say a prayer, a little Reiki for getting the house and for Anne dealing with her commitment anxieties. I have been in an apartment for 42 years. That does say something about my commitment anxieties.
Exactly.
I haven't had a mortgage. I'd have to get a car. Oh my God, another commitment. I'm like, oh yeah. So
well, we're seeing you. She sent me pictures of the place in Florida. It is gorgeous. So we're seeing you in this beautiful Aquarian in the sky. You're almost like in the sky, looking at the ocean, minimalist, clean, fresh start. Yeah, we're seeing that for you, Anne. That's awesome. Okay, everybody, thank you.
That's my why. Yeah.
That's your why. Your why.
Mm-hmm. So we'll see.
Very nice. Yeah. Very nice. Okay. Thank you, everybody, so much for being here. Thank you for being a part of our community. And as always, thank you for making astrology a part of your life. We'll catch you on the next episode.
Bye.